This podcast is a proud member of the UUOP network.
This episode is brought to you by the Amazon exclusive book, Earning My Ears by Adam Santino.
Are we doing ads at the beginning of the show? What the hell's this all about?
Sold out, man.
Yeah.
Light bill's getting expensive.
This book is a hilarious, occasionally sad and mostly weird memoir of his time in the WDW college program. And from my understanding, that'll be very weird.
You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll learn a lot of new swear words.
Hey, it sounds like when we went to Magic Kingdom for Mickey's Not So Scary last year.
Oh, God.
Hey-o.
Too soon.
Still too soon.
It's true, though.
It is.
It's true.
It is.
You'll learn a lot about what life is actually like working for the mouse, which actually, I know we crap on the mouse a lot, but I think it's interesting learning about the behind the scenes
I agree.
of any theme park.
Agreed.
Working.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm, for one, really looking forward to reading this book.
I know, Adam. I can imagine this book is hilarious.
Yeah.
So, of course, be sure to grab your copy today. It is available exclusively on Amazon, as Chris said, in print and Kindle editions, and the links are in the notes attached to this episode. This is episode 612 of the unofficial Universal Orlando podcast for May 21st, 2024. Hello everyone, welcome to the show. I'm your host Lee. I am joined, of course, by Christopher.
Hello.
And Michelle.
Hi.
See, Michelle, you're not last this time. Technically not last, because Tracy's not here.
Well, I am still last, though.
But we do have a very special guest who, unfortunately, his wife's not here either, which it would have been cool to have had both of them on. But you might know him from the Main Street Magic podcast. That is Jeremy Stein. Hey, Jeremy.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
So, Jeremy, can you please introduce yourself to our listeners and let them know your history with Disney World and Universal?
Yeah. So my wife Rhonda and I started a Disney-specific podcast back in August of 2017. And it was after we became pass holders about 2 years prior to that to Disney. My wife grew up in Florida. I had been down here for about 14 years from Maryland. And we were just kind of going all the time right before we had kids. And then we became pass holders and we were taking our young girls, about two, 3 times a year or something. And then we just started going a lot more often. So we started going every single month. We're only 2 hours from Disney World's front door here in St. Augustine, Florida.
Nice.
So we started going all the time. And, I'm sure you guys get this with being Universal, fans and going there and all. You get home and all your friends and family ask, like, I want to go on a trip. Where do I book? What do I eat? How does this work? How does that work? And I'd been producing podcasts for like a decade for my brother, but never actually done my own. So I was like, well, if we're going to be talking about Disney all the time to our friends and family, let's just turn it into something more. Let's press record and let's start doing a podcast about it. So that was basically what we started doing. And we were putting out 2 episodes a week, everything Disney, from trip reviews, because we were going down once or twice a month, to just, topical type things and top 10 lists and bracket challenges. And, we weren't reinventing the wheel or anything as far as podcasts go, but, that's what people were enjoying. And then this little thing called the global pandemic hit, and theme parks all over the world, and of course in Central Florida, shut down. And there was a ton of uncertainty. Here we are doing a podcast about one of the things that was not open, and we had no idea when it was going to open. And Universal jumped on it first, reopening in June of 2020, after a couple months shut down. And we had actually backed down to 1 episode a week, but most of our podcast episodes at that time when the parks were closed were like what we miss about Disney, what we're going to do when we go back to Disney. And we were kind of hurting for content. So when Universal reopened beginning of June of 2020, we went down reopening day. We stayed at Cabana Bay for the first time ever.
Nice.
And we walked in and bought annual passes for our family of 4. And
Nice.
we started recording about that until Disney opened a little over a month later. And then we were pass holders for both. So we started kind of just balancing that content. So we would do, 8 episodes a month, probably 6 to 7 of them were still about Disney. And then we'd throw 1 or 2 Universal ones in there because they were very much trip reviews because we were still learning. We didn't really didn't know Universal well. We had only maybe been there once before for like a day. So we started adding that in, and we did that for 3.5 years of covering Disney and Universal. And only most recently this year, we unfortunately had to cancel our Universal APs for really financial reasons. As everything continues to get more expensive, we had to make a decision on which one we were going to choose for the time being. That was Disney. And so we dropped our Universal APs. But it wasn't something that we wanted to do. We just knew it was a necessity for now. And we hope that, as things get better, we're both business owners and basically independent contractors. So as our businesses continue to grow, we hope that we'll be able to, get Universal passes back, because it was one of the things our girls, who are now 14 and 16, loved. We burnt them out of Disney. They were done with Disney about 2 years ago. And we dropped their annual passes for Disney, but they could still enjoy Universal. So I do hope we can get back to it. It's still something we enjoyed doing as a family. So we'll see, but we hope that that'll come back around. But we got a lot of knowledge in those 3.5 years. We were going every month almost. We were staying on property. We stayed at every Universal hotel there.
Nice.
We tried to hit as much as we could while we were there, and try and do new things each time to start to learn more and more. And so we got a pretty good grasp on it. And, now a lot of times, kind of like we're going to do today is, comparing the differences a lot between Disney and Universal, because it varies for everybody that's looking for a place to go,
I have to ask then, Jeremy, if you've stayed at every on-site hotel, which is your favorite?
Oh, I love Cabana Bay. I think just in general, but we only stayed at Sapphire Falls once, and I absolutely loved Sapphire Falls. Like that pool, I think the pool's the best out of any of them. It's still pretty affordable. Like Strongwater Tavern is a great place to eat. Like
speaking Chris's language.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I think they should trade, where they sit. I think that Royal Pacific should be on that, and I'll use terms, I'm sure, value, moderate, and deluxe, because I'm so used to Disney, but I feel like, Royal Pacific and Sapphire Falls should almost like swap. Like I feel like Sapphire Falls is the better and more almost luxury hotel compared to Royal Pacific.
Yep.
Totally agree. Yeah.
I think Royal Pacific has that extra level purely because of the dining options there. Amethyst is okay, but Islands dining is fantastic.
Yeah. In that location. And it's just, but we found ourselves, I'd say I collect a lot of weird stuff, I feel like, and I'm sure a lot of people collect them, but like I collect all the room key cards.
Oh yeah, of course.
And so I've got every single one from Universal, from going in those 3.5 years. I'm trying to remember how many individual trips we had, but most of our trips were staying at one of the endless summer resorts. Because you would get AP rates, for $80 sometimes to stay there. And they had the they call them 2-bedroom suites, but we got to a point where, our girls are old enough. They always want to bring a friend, or now our older one wants to bring a boyfriend. And so having all that extra space and paying, I remember paying on New Year's Day $100 for one of the 2-room suites that I think it was Dockside Inn, and you're like, dang, I'd love to stay somewhere else, but how am I going to pass that up?
Yeah. So
those were probably the ones we'd consider like home, because we went there so often. But yeah, Sapphire Falls was just the best. And then the last one we stayed at in January was Hard Rock. And really loved there. I'm a big music guy, so of course I just loved walking around there. And not a bad resort there either, but certainly different from some of the others.
I'm going to make you jealous now. So I think my wife holds the record for the best value from a Universal annual pass. So we got our first annual passes when we came out for our first weekender in, when was it again? October 2019. I got her the seasonal pass with the 3 months extra free. The last time she used that pass was September last year.
Yeah.
So because COVID hit, Universal froze our passes and we couldn't get back because travel to the US was done for 18 months. We did that 2019 trip, Mardi Gras 2020 trip, then 2 trips in 2022, and the trip for Horror Nights last year on one annual pass, a seasonal one as well. That was
That's amazing.
$250 or something. Yeah. And
that's
now the price
incredible.
jump is massive, and you're like, whoa. I went to renew mine last year and was like, oh, they are a lot more expensive.
Oh, wait till you see the cost of Walt Disney World annual passes. Then you'll really go, whoa.
When we get to see Epic Universe ones next year, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting for, to see how that whole thing goes. And I'm hoping at that point, I mean, I know it's going to be a madhouse. I'm hoping sometime around the opening of Epic Universe, we can become pass holders again, or whatever they're going to throw at us, as far as Epic Universe and what it's included in, or if it's extra. I mean, whatever they're going to do.
It's going to be very interesting.
We certainly want to be able to check that out. So we'll see. Kind of like trying to make things happen on our end to increase our businesses and grow, and then hopefully get back there, because I mean, as you guys know, I mean, it's Disney versus Universal when people are looking to go to Central Florida. I know when you're coming from overseas, a lot of folks will come and spend like 2 weeks, and they'll do both. But you have so many families that are like, all right, we got one trip a year. We're going to Central Florida. Do we go to Disney or do we go to Universal? So the comparisons are always going to be there, regardless. So it's interesting to see what people think about that and what Epic Universe is going to do.
Yes.
For all of it. That's going to change everything for the first time in a very, very long time. I feel like, you got rides opening and lands opening at both of them over the past decade or so, but when you're talking a brand new state-of-the-art park with stuff nobody's ever seen, what's that going to do? It'll be interesting.
Very interesting, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've talked about on the show for the length of the time that it's always that Disney versus Universal thing, and for the longest time it's always been Disney. And then, like you said, I think when COVID hit, Disney took a bit of a step back, and Universal really ran with it at that point. And they've really stepped up, and with Epic opening next year, it's going to be very interesting. I don't think they'll compete with them on a company-wide level, but on a sort of Orlando theme park visitors level, it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
I think you might see for the first time a park in Orlando overtake the Magic Kingdom for attendance next year. Very
possible.
Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. I've invited Jeremy on, and I did invite Rhonda, but unfortunately she's not here. By the way, I mentioned it. I love your theme tune for your podcast, by the way. It's awesome.
Thank you.
To kind of what we talked about is, so originally it was like 6 reasons that visiting Universal Orlando was better. And Jeremy was like, hang on, I don't like that. Let's go different, better, or less stressful. So 6 reasons that visiting Universal Orlando is different, better, or less stressful than a visit to Walt Disney World. And I thought, well, we'll get someone who's a Disney person on. Michelle's kind of, but much more Universal. So, Jeremy,
yes, very true.
What have you got for us?
Well, I mean, the first thing that I think it comes down to is planning and preparing, and like the accessibility of these two, theme parks. It takes pretty much now, and I'd like to say I know everything about Disney World. I know a lot, but I don't think anyone knows everything. But it takes like a PhD to go to Disney now. Between everything that's changed coming out of COVID with Genie Plus and lightning lanes and individual lightning lanes, and whether there's transportation from the airport or not. I mean, just all these things have changed where you can't kind of just go to Disney and enjoy yourself. You really, I mean, you can, but you probably got to be like a local. Like, if it's your once a year trip or your once in a lifetime trip, you got to put a lot of work into going to Disney World. And if you do, you're going to have an outstanding time, and you're going to understand, how to navigate Disney World and what Genie Plus is and how to use it and the individual lightning lanes and everything. Universal much more now is just, you kind of just show up in a sense. You don't have to worry about park reservations. I mean, that was the huge thing, of course, coming out of COVID. I mean, we went to Universal on day one that they reopened. And those first couple of days, I mean, they closed for capacity, but we just walked right in. There was no going online ahead of time. There wasn't making reservations. There wasn't planning out your entire day to every second, just to be able to do things. So it's so much easier to plan and prepare to go to Universal. You can kind of just wing it in some ways. And then, of course, the accessibility, when you think of the footprint that Universal holds, right now, Epic will obviously change that. When you can walk from, the studio side through City Walk into Island Side, and then even take, the Hargwoods Express back over to Studio Side, and never really get on a bus or a monorail or a Skyliner or have to get an Uber. So becoming within that planning and getting your trip ready, it's so much easier to figure out how much time you need there, get around from place to place, to enjoy both parks in the same day without just absolutely killing yourself. It's a lot harder to do at Disney. You can't even go from one park to another without hopping on some mode of transportation. And even Disney will tell you, allow 90 minutes to get from any one point in Disney World to the other.
Wow.
Even if you just think all you're doing is going from, Epcot to Hollywood Studios, which are almost next door to each other, but you're still looking at either a lengthy walk on a path, you're taking the Skyliner, so there's going to be backups, something's going to happen, and it could take you an hour and a half just to get from one park to the other. Universal, if you have to, you can walk out that front door at Studio Side, walk right on over to Islands and get right in, and you've wasted 10, 15 minutes of a walk, if that. So I do think that the accessibility and being able to plan for a Universal trip is just so much easier than Disney World. I mean, it's great because it keeps us doing a podcast. If Disney made it too easy, I don't know what the heck we would talk about.
Exactly.
So,
I don't know. Universal's made it easy, and he's been talking about it for 13 years.
That's true. I mean, that is a true talent.
It's like little things where, so I haven't done a proper Disney World trip since 2013 when we came out to Orlando for 3 weeks, and then so we started the podcast 2 years before that, and then since then we've pretty much stuck to Universal most of the time we've been there. We've had a couple of trips to SeaWorld. We went to Mickey's Not So Scary last year as a Universal podcast. We even had our shirts on with a logo on. And even managed to find some cast members who listened to the show. That was bizarre. And then we went to Epcot back in 2020, and it was a mess. So it's not something we've experienced, but just going out to Mickey's Not So Scary last year and having to, like Chris, so we wanted to ride Tron. So Chris set a timer on his phone for like 5 minutes before those virtual line wait times went live, and then we stopped in Adventureland, and everyone had their phones on, refresh, trying to get that Tron, and it's just like it was exciting, but then you stand there and think, what am I doing standing in a theme park, like refreshing my phone just to be able to ride an attraction in the park?
A little anxiety ridden too.
It was
very.
And what's sad about that to me is having gone to Mickey's Not So Scary. Let's see, the first time I went was probably 10 years ago. And the crowds during those parties was very low. Like there was not an attraction in Magic Kingdom that I couldn't just walk on at that time. And yes, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train was there, and I was able to just walk onto it. But the past 4 or 5 years, it's not like that. So yes, even during how Mickey's Not So Scary, you still have to do that kind of weird planning and, stressful trying to get the virtual queue for Tron. You can't just walk on. And to me, that's disheartening. Like I miss those special perks of those parties. But yeah, I mean, that's Jeremy, exactly what turned me into a Universal fanatic. Having started at Disney and then going over to Universal was the same thing. Like it's easy.
Yeah.
You can literally just, especially if you're staying in one of those premieres and you have the express passes, you can just go.
Yeah, we took one of Rhonda's really good friends hadn't been to Disney since she was like a little kid, and she came with us at the beginning of April for the weekend. We were going to show her around and all, and we got up. I think it was the Saturday morning. Got a Cosmic Rewind virtual queue over at Epcot, and we rode it. We got off, and she was like, "That's amazing. Can we go ride it again?" And I was like, "No, you can't." Nope. She's like, "Well, get back in line." And I was like, "That's not a thing for this ride." I was
crazy
because I looked it up. I was like, at that time of day, the individual lightning lanes were sold out, or we would have bought one and she could have rode again. But I was like, "Yeah, you can't just go wait in line for this one." She's like, "What?" And she couldn't fathom that.
Yeah.
Right.
And I understand that she couldn't. It's one of our big things is saying, don't like make a list of what you want to do. And this can go for Universal, it can go for anything in your life, make a list of the things that you want to do that's important to you, to your family, whoever's going on the trip, right? And cross them off as you do them, but don't come back from a trip and say it was an awful trip because you didn't do them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
don't base your happiness and your joy on a checklist. But it's also so understandable if the one thing you really want to do is ride Cosmic Rewind or Tron and you don't get to because of a system, because your phone craps out when you go in there at 7 a.m. to book it, or the 1 p.m. drop shows up, and you were at lunch and you just didn't, you didn't set that alarm for 5 minutes before. And next thing you know, it's 1:05. You look down at your watch and you're like, great, we missed it.
Yep.
We don't get to ride one of the rides we really wanted to. So I totally understand how frustrating that is for people.
What's even worse is when you do set those alarms and do everything right and you do follow all the rules and you still don't get it.
Yeah.
It literally took me probably 4 trips
I was
to
just gonna
Disney
say.
before I was able to finally get a Rise of the Resistance pass.
Yeah. And that was, we were there for opening a Rise of Resistance that morning. It was one of those where we got up at like 3 a.m. We got to the park at 4 a.m. And this was, honestly, this is back when openings were exciting. Like the opening of Galaxy's Edge is one of my favorite memories ever because there were no virtual queues. Like there wasn't an actual open time. We showed up at 3 a.m. We stood in line till 5 a.m. They started letting folks in. And that was the moment we first got in once Rise of Resistance opened a couple months later, where they were like, oh, by the way, you have to get a virtual queue. And we're like, well, I don't really know what that is. I mean, we had done, I was familiar with Hagrid's when Hagrid's used to use the virtual queue, but theirs was so very different. I mean, we would ride Hagrid's 4 or 5 times in a day, all on the virtual queue system, where, Disney, you get that one shot and then you're done.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things that, like, when it works, it's the best thing ever because you're going to ride Cosmic Rewind or Tron. And it's great. Like I technically can't complain because we secure a virtual queue pretty much every time we go. But the family that's next door, that came to this trip that doesn't have the knowledge and all that we do, and Disney's not really giving it to them. Disney's saying, want a virtual queue? Get on at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
No, you're way too late already.
Yeah.
Yeah. At
So,
least,
Wow.
It's interesting in those things. I mean, now that Tiana's Bayou Adventures here coming June 28th that they just announced as the official opening, I'd be very interested to see what they do as far as, Tron's still pretty new. So I don't see that they can drop a virtual queue for Tron, but they also don't hold 2 virtual queues in the same park. Disney hasn't done that yet. But that right there, me talking out loud is like, all right, well, what if you want to come this summer and you already have your trip planned and you want to ride Tiana's Bayou Adventure? What's that going to take, out of your day?
Yeah.
So that makes it pretty difficult. That planning and all is rough. And again, as I was just saying, when it works, it's amazing and you get to do everything you want to do, but it's not going to work all the time.
No.
And you get stuck, and your little kid who all he wants to do is ride Cosmic Rewind or Tron, they don't get why they can't, and you got to explain, well, the IT glitched or I was too slow in hitting join, so
Exactly.
And
that part's pretty tough.
And you can be a theme park person. You could have visited theme parks all over the world. That is not going to prepare you going to Walt Disney World because you're like, I've been to theme parks. I know how they work. And you're going to set foot in there and go, what is this?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it's complicated. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy, but it's complicated even for travel agents. Like,
100%.
and unless you go like 50 times and you're using it constantly, it's confusing even for me. Like to this day. Yeah. It's definitely not like the whole technology on the app is not super user friendly. I still have to kind of play around with it a little bit. I still get the butterflies in my stomach when it's time for me to try to get a virtual queue. Like, I don't know that even as a professional in that realm, I don't know that I will ever be able to go to Walt Disney World in a relaxed manner.
Yeah. And I mean, I live and breathe everything Disney. And I will still have people message me and they'll say, I'm trying to understand Genie Plus. Is this correct? And I'll read it and I know the answer, but I have to double check even myself because of how difficult it is to understand. I'm like, let's do it 7 a.m. Here's what you can do at 7 a.m. Here's what you can do at park opening, but not, I mean, it's a lot. Kind of a mess. It is. So, and again, that's fine for me. I get it. Like I live and breathe it. I'm going to be able to handle it. But the average park goer is not.
No.
And I mean, you used to have people show up all the time. We have a lot of cast member friends and some of the ones that are guest experience managers at some of the resorts, you know, and they'll have people show up. This was prior to COVID, so I can't even imagine what they're going through now. They had no idea what FastPass was. They had no idea you could book 3 before your trip.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't even understand that, you know, you can make a reservation in a Disney park without having a park reservation. So you can make a dining, you know, you wanted to go eat at whatever, you know, Skipper Canteen at Magic Kingdom, and you made a dining reservation, but you didn't make a park reservation just say for that day. So all of a sudden you don't realize that you can't get into that park to even go to your dining reservation unless you do all these other things. So,
I know it's a lot.
and it is a lot. And same thing, you know, it's something, a lot of them you have to be able to live and breathe it to understand it. So I can totally get, I mean, as a travel agent, unless you're in the parks every single day doing all this, you can watch all the YouTube videos and you can go through all the training you want, and it's still not going to prepare you for when you're sitting in your hotel room at 6:55. You know, should I be on Wi-Fi? Should I be on my mobile network? Should I be inside? Should I be outside? Is it, you know, is this clock right? Is my iPhone right? You know, you got to go through all these things and
Looking up the world, like the atomic clock, so that you're
world clock.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's just not fun though, is it? I can't imagine as a family going to Disney World for the first time, trying to figure out and come back and probably never set foot in a Disney park again because they had what they would look at as being a terrible experience.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I use myself as an example there, where I haven't been to Disney. The last time I was at Disney was with you guys for Not So Scary.
But then before that, when was the last time before then?
I couldn't tell you. It's been years. Look, I haven't been to Galaxy's Edge. I haven't seen any of the new additions. None of that stuff, right? And one of the main reasons why is not because I don't want to go. It's because part of it is because I just get turned off when I start going into all the nuances and details. I have some friends that have been pass holders their entire life, and then we'll get into conversations, and they just start telling me all this stuff, and I'm a little bit spoiled from Universal, where it's like, well, don't really want to do that. That sounds way too complicated and stressful.
Yeah.
But like when we went on this last trip, like it was nice because obviously, Michelle, you were there.
Right.
And you just kind of handled all that for me.
But it was quiet as well.
It was.
Which, hey, I mean, if you want me to take you to Disney, I'm happy to, Chris.
No, yeah, I know.
Why did you get the special treat
there? But what I'm saying is like if it was like just, you know, my wife going, Alexa going, you know, hey, let's go to Disney and do this. Like I already know that I have to spend quite a bit of time researching everything, and as like. As the way my mind works, like I'd have to know everything in detail. And like you guys have been saying, it's even as somebody who does this all the time, it's still hard to know everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've got friends across the street, and it comes down to like the makeup of your family and what those people enjoy and don't. We have some of our best friends live across the street, and the wife loves that stuff. Like she like just lives and breathes going to a park and going, I'm going to be on Genie Plus. I'm going to set my alarm for every 2 hours. I'm going to get like, that just fuels her, and they have the best trip ever. But we have another friend around the corner who's a single mom and wants to take her daughter, and she doesn't want to do any of that stuff. So those two people are going to have very different vacations. And that's what you see. I see a lot of people that come back from Disney and they'll say it was the worst time ever. I hated it. I won't go back. I'm like, okay, well, did you use Genie Plus? What's that? I'm like, well, okay. I mean, and that's the thing that I struggle with is Disney's made it very hard to go to Disney and do everything. But the information is out there. Like I'm the type of person that if I'm going to go to the beach for a week with my family, prior to going, I'm going to look up all the things that are around there. I'm going to study the hotel or whatever we're staying at. I'm going to, look at everything to offer. I'm going to know going in what my like food options are there. Do they have a pool? Do they have a hot tub? How close is it to the beach? I'm going to look up, surrounding restaurants, activities. Like I'm not going to go into it blind. But a lot of people are just that way. They think going to Disney is like maybe just going to the beach. You just kind of show up, you get your, toes in the sand and you have a good time. So I feel bad for people that go and they're not prepared, but then at the same time, I want to ask them like, why weren't you prepared? But everybody just vacations differently, and and Disney is just it's not a place to go in blind. And if you can understand that, then I do think that, the rest is up to you. You cannot enjoy having to study for the trip, but you're going to have to, or it's going to be a very different trip. So sometimes that is on the person that's going, and I understand that Disney has made it so much harder, but the tools are out there. There's podcasts and there's YouTube and there's all these things. If you do take some time and you do learn how to do Disney, you're going to have a great time and you're going to accomplish the things that you want. It's not going to be easy, but you're still going to be able to get it done. So that's kind of what I tell people as far as, Disney goes. But I also have to, as you guys know, as podcasters, I'm sure you get people all the time that, want to hit you up and go, hey, plan my entire Universal trip for me. Just tell me everything to do. Give me all the details.
That's Michelle's job.
Yeah, there you go. You just pass it off.
Oh, yeah.
It's perfect. So
with Universal, I'm like, we don't really have to plan much. I swear. They're like, oh, really? Because I just went to Disney last year, and I'm like, just trust me. Yeah. You don't have to plan every second of the day. They're like, all right. Yeah. And then they go, they're like, oh my gosh, that was amazing.
Yeah, it's so different. It is so different.
Right. Jeremy, what have you got next for us?
Well, I think this will, play off it. And this is one where I kind of differ from everybody else, I think, is based on cost. Because Disney on paper is more expensive across the board. If you look at the cost of an overall vacation, Disney versus Universal, Disney's going to be more expensive. It's going to. But I like to argue the fact that they're so different in the manner of what you get at each. All right, my Disney annual pass is $1,500 for the year. That's IncrediPass, and I think they're $13.99. We get a discount for renewal. So all in, we add PhotoPass and we add the water park option. It's about $1,500, right?
Wow.
Right now, I didn't look it up, but let's just say that Universal APs for all three parks, if you include Volcano Bay, Premier, they might come in around $750, $800, just say. So almost half the price. Now, my argument is you're getting half of the parks.
Yes.
So technically they're the same. If you're paying $1,500 for 4 parks, and well, you can't really say 2 water parks because Disney won't open them both at the same time anymore. But, you're getting 4 parks compared to 2 parks over at Universal. So I do think that when you really try and look at kind of a baseline of evening everything out, Disney's really not that much more expensive. I actually looked for today, like right now there's a 3-day Florida 2 park for Universal, runs you $292. It's a Florida resident. You get 3 days at both parks. A Disney one, which will give you 3 days, Florida resident rate. That's giving you park hopper. So you get to go to all 4 parks over your 3 days. Actually comes in at $20 less a ticket. Okay. So in that right there, if all you're focusing on is park ticket for 3 days, Disney comes in lower.
Yeah.
So kind of you can look at that as far as cost. Then to jump onto that, and we can move on to kind of the third one. If you're looking at Express Pass, 2-day at Universal, and that was, I believe it was the one ride, not the unlimited.
Yeah.
Was $175 per person.
Wow.
Right. Then you move on to Genie Plus today, $25 per person. Now we can move on to comparing Genie Plus and Express Pass. Express Pass is a perfect system.
Yeah.
I mean, other than the cost, there's 0 flaws. You don't you go up to somebody and say, how do I use Express Pass? And somebody will tell you, buy it.
Yeah.
And then go on any of the rides you want, whenever you want, through the Express Pass line. End of story. That's it. I just explained how to use Express Pass, right?
Yep.
Genie Plus, sure, it's $25, but you got to go through all of that. Well, what can you book at 7 a.m.? What can you book at park opening?
Yeah.
You got the 2-hour window. You can stack some Genie Plus lightning lanes in the afternoons. You can, it takes so much more.
There's chances with Genie Plus that you don't have the opportunity to ride everything that is offered through Genie Plus just because the time slots sell out.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's one of those where, in general, I do think that the cost comparison can be pretty similar when you really break it down.
But it's what you get for
when
it.
you look at Express versus Genie Plus, if you take the cost out of there, I mean, yeah, we were Premier Pass holders, so we always had Express after 4. We would just wait till 4:00 and we would ride whatever the heck we wanted. And when we took my daughter and her boyfriend at the beginning of the year for her birthday, we stayed at Hard Rock. So we got that included unlimited Express Pass. I mean, it's an absolute game changer. And I mean, I don't know if you guys tell people the same, but if people ask about Express Pass at Universal, I'm like, never buy it individually. Just stay at one of the legacy resorts, at the premier resorts, get it included. I guarantee it's going to be cheaper.
So
no matter what.
You go back 13 years, one of the first episodes we ever did of this show, when it was just me and Tracy, one of the tip we gave out is just as true then as it is today, or just as true today as it was then, is that exact thing. Go and get yourself whatever the cheapest on-site of those top 3 hotels. I mean, they're not as cheap as they used to be, but you can get the Hard Rock for say $400 a night. For a family of 4, you're all getting an Express Unlimited ticket for the day you check in and the day you check out. Plus you're getting a night in a really nice hotel. That to me is one of the biggest theme park bargains anywhere.
Yeah, it's huge. And that's exactly where we stayed. We stayed at Hard Rock. We actually went. We had to buy, because we still had the annual passes for our daughter, but her boyfriend didn't have one. So we had to buy him the 2-day ticket. And at that point, I think Florida residents basically got buy a day, get a day free to both parks. So the ticket still came out to about $270 for those 2 days. But we stayed at Hard Rock the second night. So the first night we got in, we stayed at Endless Summer, and we just went to City Walk. We didn't go to parks. But Saturday we went over, we checked into Hard Rock. At that night was $405 a night on an AP rate. All 4 of us got Express Pass. We spent all Saturday in the parks with Express Pass, all Sunday in the parks, and then we came home Sunday night.
Yep.
And I mean, it was an absolute game changer. I even tell people that want to split Disney and Universal, I'm like, you know what? If you're at Disney for a week and you just want to go for maybe a day over at Universal, you're still better off booking a hotel over there, like Hard Rock. You don't even have to stay in it.
Nope.
Like, you can go back to Disney that night. It's cheaper to book a room than it is just to individually buy, for Express Passes.
In most cases, for sure. Sometimes if it's only a couple or maybe two adults and a young child, then sometimes the math doesn't work. But definitely for sure, if you're a family of 4 or 5, it's always cheaper to do the Premier Resort.
Yeah, definitely.
But then I remember for the weekend of the first one, Michelle, didn't you book Stephanie into Aventura and then buy her Unlimited Express on top of it? I think it worked out better for her that way. So it's not an always guarantee, but sometimes. But yeah, that's one of the,
that's why I said if you're a solo or just like 2 people, then sometimes the math doesn't work. But if you're a big family, 4 or 5, then
that's why travel agents are so important. Because they're going to tell you things like that. You're going to do the math and say, hey, it's actually better if you do this than this. The average consumer and park goer, they don't know all those little details and nuances. Right. So they're going to spend way too much money and not get the same as if they use, a travel agent. I mean, that's why there are travel agents, is to take care of people and give them the best deal and all of that. So
preach.
It does worry me next year when Epic Universe opens what they're going to implement as far as their queuing system for that, because there's no way it's going to open with Express Pass, and so the only way I can see them managing lines is to put some sort of virtual line in, and that scares me.
I know. I'm super, super interested to see how all that's handled.
Yeah. Because they don't have a brilliant track record, Universal, to be fair, dealing with newly opening things.
Openings, Hagrid's was something.
Michelle, you were there, weren't you? 7-8 hours did you queue, Michelle?
2 days in a row. Waited 8 hours, 2 days in a row,
Ooh. Wow.
Well, that's just to land, right? How much trouble they had then. But if you go back, if you turn the clock back to when Islands of Adventure opened up, I mean, they had problems getting people in there.
Yeah. The whole Universal Escape thing.
Yeah, they had sponsored events to bring people in there, and I don't know if it's just theme park culture has gotten so big, that now anything that drops is just like, we're gonna, mad dash over there.
Well, and it's different too when you're opening literally an entire park simultaneously, where the crowds are going to be very well spread versus you're opening one new ride in an already existing theme park, and everybody wants to ride that one ride. I think it'll be a little bit different.
It's going to be weird though, isn't it? I've said this before, because you've got 4 separate lands, not including Celestial Park, off the main hub that are all one way in and one way out. You could potentially have it won't be, but you could potentially have 3 lands that are absolutely packed to the rafters and one that, like, no one's in there.
Good.
Which
Yeah.
would be weird. It probably won't, but you could have that eventually. Like if people are going, I've done Super Nintendo World before. You've got Tracy who's done it in Japan, be like, it's old hat now, I don't need to go in there. You could potentially have that effect with Super Nintendo World where it's not as busy as the rest of them because people have potentially already done it elsewhere. It's
true.
Weird. It's weird. Very strange. Right, well, we'll take a quick ad break because Michelle needs to plug her travel agency, which Jeremy's done such a good job already of, to be fair. And we'll be right back.
I wish to go to Universal.
Right, off you go. We'll beat to the edge of the Forbidden Forest.
Where can our vacation wizards take you? Just tap the port key at portkeyvacations.com and let the magic begin.
Welcome back, everyone. We are here with Jeremy Stein from the Main Street Magic podcast, giving us his 6 reasons a trip to Universal is better or less stressful than Disney World. So, Jeremy, what have you got next for us?
I'm going to talk about the app because Universal's app is so easy to use and to navigate. And I feel like Universal really put their focus on people are going to go into this app while they're at the theme park to get the information they need while they're here. Disney and My Disney Experience is much more like, let's give you the entire Disney company in the palm of your hand and you just figure it out while you're at a park.
Right.
You know, like, and when we went in February, our last time at Universal was right around, we were actually there, I think, when they updated the Universal app that made organizing wait times and like seeing them so much easier.
Yeah.
And the way that you could do filters, and it was so much easier to use. You know, over with My Disney Experience, you're booking your park reservations, your dining reservations, you're looking at Genie Plus and individual Lightning lanes, at booking the regular Lightning lanes, you're looking at their free Genie service and seeing where that tells you to go, and looking at parade times and fireworks. Like, and they have within My Disney Experience, they have the pass holder buzz that's just for pass holders. That I'm like, just put that somewhere else.
Yeah.
Let us go to a website. Like, you don't need all this. And then through all of everything that they've done with My Disney Experience, they still don't have park reservations built into the app. When you click it, it still takes you to your internet browser on your phone for you to book your park reservations if you still need them as an annual pass holder or a cast member. So I think that Universal does such a good job of streamlining that app. And then, as we were talking about with Express Pass, you only really need the app for very minimal things at Universal. Whereas Disney and My Disney Experience, you got to have your face in the phone all day long.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna miss it.
Yes.
So I really like what Universal has done with their app, and just the way that it's so easy to use for folks. And you could hand somebody a phone that's never been to Universal and say, hey, by the way, here's the app. Use this for your day. And they're going to be like, okay, I can probably figure this out within a minute or two. You do that at Disney, and that person's head's going to explode.
Yeah.
They're going to have no idea. I mean, I still go into the app and I'm confused about where some things are. So
yes,
Chris, perspective's a very interesting thing, isn't it? Because we've complained about the app before. We've said for the longest time, like the mobile ordering and stuff was horrible. And I know they've just had the update recently where it was, like you said, Jeremy, there with the Disney one. For the longest time, if you wanted to make a reservation at a City Walk restaurant, it did the same thing. You'd click on it in the app and take you to your browser, and that's all in. So it took them a long time to get the app to the point it is now, because Chris used to lament how bad it was so often.
Yeah, well, the mobile order at Universal was pretty atrocious when it started. I mean, it was really bad. Like, mobile order was awful at Universal. And when we were there, because it was beginning of January, so it was right after the new year, and like we were trying to, we take cash a lot of times because it's easier for us to budget. And so we had saved a bunch of cash, and we were just going to take that, and we were going to do our dining and some of that stuff. And it was busy enough, we did not realize that they weren't going to be taking cash at any of the locations that day as far as quick service. You had to do mobile order. And so they were forcing you to basically do that at Universal. And we just had a nightmare trying to get into Three Broomsticks and finally get our food and all of that. But it has improved a lot as we continue to use it. I will say the one thing that Disney does really well in their app is mobile order. It's very easy to use. We recommend that to everybody. But yeah, and anytime, Disney IT in general, when there's something new, everything's going to crash. Every last thing is going to.
Yep.
It's so frustrating. You're like one of the biggest corporations in the world, and they still can't get their IT figured out. Yeah, Universal does a really good job, I think, with their app, and their website in general is pretty easy to go through if you're looking to book a vacation or something. So I definitely think Universal.
It is if you're in the US, because we don't get access over here to the same website you guys do at Universal unless we have a VPN, and that really annoyed me, especially when I'm trying to do research for the podcast, and until I had a VPN, I couldn't get that stuff, and it was quite annoying.
Yeah, I bet.
But yeah, Chris, you complained for the longest time about the app. Has it got better recently?
I mean, a lot of the complaints too is coming from with knowledge of programming background and stuff like that. It's kind of annoying some of the things that they do and why they do what they do. But I can't knock them too hard. I mean, hearing it from the Disney side as well, I can understand. It is frustrating though to have, like you said, a multi-billion-dollar company have that many strides or issues with a mobile app.
Yeah, it's crazy, and so much of the company's built on technology.
Exactly.
Like, that's the thing, like, okay, you can do all the technology here. Like you can sometimes pull off Rise of Resistance because that can go. But, it's like you can pull off Rise of Resistance, but you haven't been able to figure out people who simply want to go preview Tiana's Bayou Adventure and pay you a ton of money every year for an annual pass. It's kind of weird. So yeah, hopefully they'll continue to progress, and that's one of those things, where, and I know this whole episode is about comparing Disney and Universal, but in the end, every time Universal does something better than Disney or Disney does something better than Universal, we all win as theme park fans. Like,
absolutely.
That's the thing that blows me away is everybody, Universal's going to crush Disney when Epic Universe opens, or Disney's going to crush Universal because this happened. Like, those two companies are aware of each other, and I understand that they are watching every step and that they're responding in certain ways.
Yeah.
But us as theme park goers, like, why does everybody want to see one of these two win?
Yes.
I feel like everybody's like, no, Universal's better. Okay, it is for you. That's awesome. But you can still have Disney and enjoy it, or vice versa. Yeah. Like, if they battle and Disney responds to Epic Universe, we win.
Yes.
If then Disney comes out with something incredible and Universal responds, we win.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what, we're winning as theme park fans. So let them keep battling.
Competition is a good thing.
Exactly.
It's a great thing. Yeah.
It's a great thing.
Yep.
And then when people realize that the same people work for both companies, it's even funnier.
Yeah.
Like you look at Hogsmeade opens. Without Hogsmeade, you don't get Pandora. Without Pandora, you don't get Diagon Alley. Without Diagon Alley, you don't get Galaxy's Edge. Without Galaxy's Edge, you don't get Epic Universe. Like,
exactly.
Well, I mean, Disney did respond to Epic Universe. They're going to totally revamp Disneyland, but it's going to be over the span of 4 decades.
But that's not competition to Epic Universe either.
Oh.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, and I apologize. I always go on tangents usually.
Oh yeah, we usually do. That's why we were late getting you on in the first place.
I mean, the thing, Disney's ride openings are all based on marketing. It's, they're not going to open 2 giant things in 1 year. They're spreading that marketing out. They're trying to have some landmark event or opening of a ride or land every single year, just so I think they can spread it out and almost respond. People act like Disney's done nothing. Go back the last decade and look at what Disney World's opened. Has it been a new park? No. But several lands, several rides, resorts, restaurants, like, they've just spread it out over a decade. If Disney had waited and was able to drop all of that at once, it'd be a very different conversation between Disney and Epic Universe. They have a plan.
Like you say, it just takes too long.
Yeah,
I know. I just wish I weren't going to be 90 years old by the time these improvements were going to be finished.
Well, when we went to Epcot in 2020, all those construction walls, everything at the front of that Park and Future World was all under wraps. And we're 5 years later, and there's still a lot of that still under construction. Yeah. Universal knocks stuff up. We've said it for so long. They are the masters of putting things in tiny footprints that don't belong there. Volcano Bay is the prime example.
Oh, yeah.
But also putting stuff up so quickly. Like Velocicoaster and Transformers is a testament to how quickly they can pull a building down. And all right, the R&D was already done for it over in Hollywood, but pull a building down, build a new building with a new attraction in it, and open it in less than a year.
Yeah. Yeah, what they're doing with Epic Universe is unbelievable. I mean, I can't even get over the progress and what they've already put into that. It's mind-blowing. Like, it just... insane.
Yeah, the logistics of building something on that scale blows my mind.
Oh yeah,
it's fascinating. I love the Imagineering series on Disney Plus, and I'd love to see one on Epic Universe. I would love to see Universal come out and be like, we're going to do a whole series, because I think those behind the scenes things and watching how it worked, unbelievable. Yeah, so cool.
Because a lot of those Universal creative people now, for the longest time, no one knew who they were. No one knew who Mike Aiello was or Thierry Coup or any of those. And now they're becoming the faces that you see in these announcement videos. So they're becoming more like the Imagineers of old. And they should do those things.
Yeah, definitely. Well, one of the next ones I have, because I love food, is the food. I gotta say, I think when it comes to quick service and resort, quick service / food courts, I think Universal just blows it out of the park. Even going to Endless Summer, the food down in there is so much better than most of the stuff that Disney's offering at a quick service level. Now, I do think when it comes to table service, in my personal opinion and what I've experienced at both of them, I think Disney crushes Universal from a table service, fine dining standpoint.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they kind of, they battle each other on each, with Universal winning quick service and Disney winning table service. I've been blown away by just the resort food at Universal. Like, I've been shocked. And I've seen that fluctuate a lot. I know when we first started going, everything, and even in the quick service, was kind of made to order. And we went through a period where everything was sitting under a heat lamp. And I felt like the quality and everything had really gone downhill over at Universal. And then some of our most recent visits, they seem to bring it back a little bit. There's certain things that are kind of prepped and prepared, and you can kind of grab and go. And then there's other things, like I know my wife went one night and she wanted some pasta. And, they had the pre-cooked pasta and everything out, but it was almost like a Subway setup, for pasta, where she was like, well, I'll take that pasta and those toppings and this cheese and that sauce. And they, they cooked it right in front of her and gave it to her hot and fresh, which was super impressive. But yeah, I think Universal could learn some stuff from the fine dining.
Agreed.
Some of our favorite places over there were like Cowfish, and that's, national. That's a chain. That's not unique to them. So I don't know if they're allowed to take credit for it.
No,
but we didn't find ourselves eating at Universal a lot, or we were going back to the exact same places, because there wasn't really a lot of stuff that interested us.
It's like, if you look at Mythos as being their signature restaurant, probably park-wide, it's good. I like Mythos, but it's not amazing.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it shouldn't be like your anchor for food. It shouldn't be the go-to when you're talking about food at Universal. It shouldn't be Mythos.
And we've been saying for a long time, too, that Universal really needs to take some classes from Disney on character dining, and like what an incredible profit-making opportunity that is, and why Universal hasn't jumped on that bandwagon. I do not understand.
They just never, because Chris, you did the Marvel dining, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you said it was a kind of
Yeah, it was kind of, I don't know if we fell in a weird time of like when it started, but we were in a corner, saw maybe 2 people. The food was mediocre at best. It just wasn't worth it, in my opinion.
Strange.
Well, there's just so many properties that Universal has access to that they could do character dining experience. And it doesn't have to be in the park. As we know from Disney, it could be at a normal hotel restaurant. Like they used to have the Minion character breakfast at Islands in Royal Pacific.
Yeah.
And then they moved it to Sapphire for a little while, and then it just went away. But there's just so many opportunities there for them to make bank on that, and I just don't get it. I don't understand why they don't.
Just do a legacy character dining.
Yeah.
Where you have like Beetlejuice, Ghostbusters, and all that. You'll crowd that
Talked
place
about
up.
it before. We did one with the kids when we came over in 2009 that was in Confisco Grill, and it was phenomenal. It was like Spider-Man, Cat in the Hat, Thing 1 and Thing 2, and it was so good. The food was amazing. The interaction was fantastic. And it, for some reason, when they started another one at one of the hotels, and rather than have both going, it's like, oh, we're going to put a new one here, but we're going to cancel that one to make way for that one. It's like, just have two.
Right. Just have them all.
People are going to do it.
look how fast the Grinch breakfast sells out.
Yes.
Right? Like, so it's obviously a success. I don't understand why they
very
don't.
strange.
Why they don't.
Yeah.
Can you imagine like a Transformers character dining experience where you get to like hang out with freaking Transformers?
My
oh
youngest
goodness,
is
people would
19
die.
and would go mental for that.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, like, this sounds awful to say, but you can have mediocre food if you have a good character dining.
Yeah.
Just sell it. Like, Chef Mickey's is one of the hardest restaurants to book at Disney, and the
food is
not
terrible.
good. Right. But it's sold out like all the time because people want characters. And I think, I mean, I've seen kind of a bit of downfall, I think, in quality overall at both of the theme parks, especially when it comes to quick service. So I do feel like, yeah, you can sell those by putting characters in them, and you don't have to make the best food. You know, you're still going to make a ton of money.
Yeah.
So,
especially for kids, people with families, with little kids, minions. I mean, like Chris, kind of going off the back of what you've just said there, with the new Lagoon Show, Cinesational starting, plus the movie parade, do those Back to the Future, whatever, just throw all those in. You'd make a killing, because that would be like all the nerds like us would be going to it.
Yep.
Why do they not have a Minion breakfast at the Minion Cafe right now?
Exactly.
It's not open for breakfast already, so it's not like they're taking away from the normal crowds. Open it for breakfast and put the characters in there and make some money, guys.
Yeah. And what's so weird is my wife and I, like, we've been doing a lot of character dining lately at Disney because we don't have the kids with us, which I know seems opposite.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Yep. I'm in that stage too, Jeremy.
Yeah, because it's affordable, you know, for us to go do a breakfast, lunch, or dinner at Disney with four of us at anywhere from 60 to 90 a head. And, you know, now we only have two of us. So we've actually been going, and we've done more character dining at Disney in the past year than we did in the first 7 years as pass holders.
Yeah, I can.
Just because we don't have to pay for our kids. So
yeah, my daughter just turned 13, and I asked her, because we're doing Disney, like a legit Disney trip in October, and I was like, hey, do you want to do character dining? She's like, oh gosh, no. I'm like, okay, well then do you mind going off with your friend and writing things while your older sister, who is 24, and I do dining? And she's like,
I can see Audrey there.
Please don't make us do character dining. I was like, cool.
Yeah. When we came over in 2013, we were going to do Cinderella's Royal Table, because our youngest was perfect age for it, well into princesses, and I priced it up, and I was like, hell no, I'm not paying that.
Yeah.
It's nuts. We've had to drop some coin lately on even just the two of us, but it's made us be able to stomach it by, you know, actually just being able to afford it that way. And I mean, same thing with like Cinderella Royal Table. The first time we ever went, our one daughter was still under the age of 3, so she was free. So it's like, all right, this is a good time to do it. And then we didn't do it for a decade until about 2 years ago. I took Rhonda for our anniversary, and it was just the two of us.
Isn't it fun?
It is. It's amazing. And I'm much more, I mean, nobody would know it if they hear me talk on a podcast, but I'm more of the introvert. I'm much more reserved. Like, I just sit and take the photos for character dining. But I mean, Rhonda just loves it. She's a kid again, and she'll talk to them, and she'll get the hugs and the poses and everything. We just did 1900 Park Fair for breakfast about 2 weeks ago.
My favorite. The strawberry soup is so good.
So good. But like, I mean, Mirabelle there, it was really like they plucked her right out of the movie. It was perfection talking to her. Tiana as well. It was just the interactions were so good that even here we are, two 44-year-old grown people that don't have our kids with us. And yeah, I mean, like, I'm blushing when Tiana walks up. My wife's having a full conversation with Mirabelle. Like, it's amazing. And I can tell you right now, if we would not go back to 1900 Park Fair for the food. Not that it was horrible.
Yeah.
But we're not going to go there for the food.
I would go there just for the soup. I'm sorry.
Yes, that you're going to go there. And I did love their breakfast pizza. They had served it on like a croissant crust instead of a standard pizza dough. And that was super good. But again, that's mediocre food, add characters, everybody wins.
Chris, are you listening? With your little one on the way, this is all the crap you're going to have to do soon.
I know.
And you're not a character.
Now.
Chris is not a character person at all, are you?
Not really. No, I mean, I like seeing them, but I don't need to interact. I will say, having gone to the parks recently with my niece, who is now a little over 3, it is the most adorable thing to watch them interact with characters. Like she loves the X-Men in Universal, which is funny to say. But she loves going to see them. And when, again, she's like 3 and a few months. But when she went up to Cyclops, I'm sorry, not Cyclops. She went up to Captain America, and she was just kind of like twisting her hair, just kind of like look like she was just like starstruck by seeing him.
Aww.
It melts your heart. I'm not her parent, I'm her uncle, but it just, as a parent, I could see how that can melt your heart and be like, fine, we'll go do all these character things now.
Audrey did the exact same thing when we were at Universal in December when she saw Captain America. She started twirling her hair and blushing.
This shows a difference between your kids and our kids. That we talked about it recently. Our favorite memory at the parks was our 11-year-old at Halloween Horror Nights having an interaction with the usher at Halloween Horror Nights 25. That's the difference.
Writing her name in blood. Yeah, is that what it was?
That's the difference of what our kids are like compared to yours.
That's hilarious. That's too funny.
I mean, to be fair, Krista likes both.
Fair enough.
Well, not anymore. She doesn't like the princesses anymore. She would much rather have her name written in blood these days.
Of course. So one more, I guess, Jeremy, and we're nearly at the end. It's been interesting, actually, and we've gone off on tangents like we usually do. But I think I think we're at a point now where comparing Universal and Disney is a much easier thing to do now, because they are kind of playing on a level playing field at this point.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'll the last one I have, because this is my 6th one, right? I wasn't even keeping track. My last one I really want to put focus on is the cast members and the team members.
Interesting.
And I'm not going either way, because when we were first going to be going to Universal with all our experience at Disney, I thought I was going to walk into team members that it was going to be going to like a carnival.
Like
it was just going to be a bunch of teenagers who didn't give a crap, and they were just there to work, and it wasn't. And we were blown away by the team members.
Yeah.
We've had so many experiences with team members that, again, if you took away where you were and obviously their name tag, you would be like, is this a Disney cast member? Is this is this a team? I don't even know who this person works for, because they're so good. And I think that's another one where if those two want to compete on their training and how they, train their cast members and their team members and their customer service, y'all can battle all day long, because it's only going to get better and better, and we all win. The interactions and experiences. Now, for us, Disney and cast members, we have a lot of cast member friends that we've made over the years, many of them that have become very close friends. And so we always will kind of skew almost to that side.
Yeah.
But I was so pleasantly surprised at how incredible team members were. I mean, I remember going even that first weekend that we went when they reopened, and we were back about 2 weeks later, going into some spots where team members remembered us. And this was just coming out of COVID, so obviously there weren't the amount of people that are running through daily now, but still, it was amazing, and it makes you feel at home. It makes you feel comfortable. Like, I just, these, and we do the Be Nice to cast member shirts. We have Be Nice to team member shirts too, but these people are out there to make your vacation, better, to answer the questions you have, to direct you the places you need to go. They're there to help. They're not your servants. They're not anyone to talk down to or treat like crap. I get you spend a ton of money to go to Disney or to go to Universal, but we all did. Everybody spends the same money technically to go to these theme parks. And, the experience that team members and cast members can give you, I mean, it really can sometimes make or break your trip.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. So just, that's one of those things. I still think it's different. Obviously, they are trained in different ways. Their customer service is presented in different ways, but the level of it is the same, and I wouldn't, as much as we love Disney and as much as we love cast members and our friends that are cast members, I can't say they're any better than the experiences we've had over at Universal, because they're just knocking it out of the park as well. So, both sides. I mean, this is anywhere you go. You can go to Chick-fil-A, Publix, I don't care. They wear name tags for a reason, and so one of the things we've always tried to do is call them by name, thank them by name, whether it was a team member or a cast member. And it'll make their day, it'll make your day. And if one of them's maybe a little bit rude to you, which probably isn't going to happen, it means they've had a bad day, like it's just, that's what it comes down to. They've got to deal with hundreds and thousands of guests every single day. And every guest thinks that they're the most important guest there because they spent the most money. And it's not true. So, treat them with respect, treat them right. Same with the other guests that are there with you. And that was kind of my little, just, I guess, pitch on be kind to everyone.
True. Yeah.
It's almost like you're saying please and thank you go a long way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who would have known? Like,
we had an experience in the Magic Kingdom at Mickey's Not So Scary last year where I saw a guest talk to a cast member, and I was appalled that I actually turned around and I apologized to her for him, because I'm just like, and she kind of shrugged at me like, like to say, oh, it happens all the time. And I was just like, how is that all right? Like, how do you, just because you're in a theme park that you've paid money to get in, makes you think you can treat people like that?
Right.
Yeah, he was yelling at her because he lost his magic band.
And he asked her where he needed to go to get a new one, and she directed him to guest services at the front of the park. And he actually said, I haven't got time for this. And I was like, what?
Wow. That's, and that's the thing too. I mean, like with anything, if I get, I don't know, my latest bill for something and there's something on there I don't like, whoever's on the other end of that phone when I call had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I mean, and you got to think of that the same way in the parks. Trust me, the cast members, and I'm sure the team members, they don't like a lot of the things that we don't like as guests, but they're not, that decision doesn't come to them. I mean, I have messaged cast member friends and be like, hey, can you believe that? And they're like, believe what? And then 10 minutes later, they're like, oh, I just got that information that you got 10 minutes before I did, and I work here. So they're not in the decision-making process. That woman who, has to feel this guy's anger that he lost his magic band, she didn't come up with the fact that he needs to go to customer service. That's just what he has to do. So it's crazy, but and a lot of them too, I have people be like, well, the cast members just aren't as magical as they used to be. I'm like, well, yeah, think of what they went through the past 4 years.
Exactly.
I mean, what we all went through, but them especially. You had people that were locked in their house for a very long time, and once they finally, got back out the theme parks, it's like they forgot everything they knew prior to COVID. Like, it was just so. That's our biggest thing, I think, to kind of preach to people is just treat them with respect.
Absolutely.
And you're gonna have a better trip.
And let's be honest, theme park guests aren't always the nicest people.
No. We checked in to Polynesian just a few weeks ago, and we were there for 2 nights, and we walked in and we were all wearing our Be Nice to Cast member shirts, because we usually we try and wear them once a trip at least, and cast members really appreciate that. And one of the managers at Captain Cook's down there, their quick service, saw them, and he just commented, he's like, hey, thank you guys so much, I appreciate it. And we got our food, and we sat outside there, and he came in about 5 minutes later, and he just sat down and talked with us for about 15-20 minutes.
Oh, that's cool.
And he asked if we liked dessert. He went and got us some cupcakes and brought those back. And but he sat there and he told us like a week prior, somebody that was in an ECV came down to Captain Cook's, and they went straight to the front of the line, kind of like you would the bus, because they have to put them on the bus first. And one of the cast members just said, I'm so sorry, you'll have to get in line with everybody else. And that escalated to a point of this person in the ECV throwing their beer at the cast member.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
And you could tell as he told this story, like he was emotional about it, because here's one of his employees. This is family to him, that he has to then come out and, mediate this guest. And it's not as though he can just walk out there and start throwing fists at a guest. I mean, he has to do everything by the book to, like make this guest at least walk away, happy, I guess, but at the same time, here they are like assaulting one of his employees. So it's sad, and I hope that those things tend to get better. But again, you can see the same thing. You walk into any business and you're going to see customers being rude. So yeah, our advice is don't. Just stop being rude.
Exactly.
We're all there to have fun. Again, we all paid to be there. Like, let's just enjoy it, and if something's not going your way, then take a deep breath and, for sure.
Well, what's interesting and is actually good for cast members and team members right now is something that's kind of going on behind the scenes. And that's because of Epic as well, is both companies are really trying to make things better for their employees in order to retain them.
Yeah.
Because Universal behind the scenes amongst those theme park workers has a better reputation for how they treat their employees as far as perks, pay, requirements, with like tattoos and appearance and things like that. Universal has a better reputation for diversity. However, Disney has gotten better over the past 5 years and loosened the reins a little bit. But now with Epic opening, I've heard there's quite the migration going on from people wanting to leave Disney to go back to work at Universal because of how much better they treat their employees. And now that Epic is opening and, going to be hiring hundreds of new people, Disney's trying everything they can to retain. So hopefully that means that Disney's going to continue to get better at how they treat their employees and want them to stay happy while they're there, which then in turn, it filters out to us, the guests, as well, right? Because happy employees make guests happy because they like going to work. So
it's back to the competition thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Because it was for that longest time, wasn't it, that Disney was the place that everyone wanted to work. And then I think that changed when the Wizarding World opened. And everyone and then they realized that Disney were being a bit. I mean, one of our old hosts, Hunter, he went and did the Disney College program for a bit, and he was okay, but there's a reason why he's not working there anymore.
Yeah.
So
the Wizarding World open and then Galaxy's Edge open, which there were a lot of people that wanted to work in the Star Wars stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So interesting.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jeremy, can you please go ahead and let everybody know where they can keep up with Rhonda and yourself?
Yeah, you can go to mainstmagic.com. You can find out all about us there. Of course, listening to the show, or you can just search for Main Street Magic on any of the podcast feeds. We're everywhere out there. And then on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, we are at MainSTMagic. And then we started doing TikTok. I don't know if it'll be around tomorrow or not, but we've been doing it. So you can find us at MSM Podcast on TikTok. Hopefully for a while, but who knows? Could shut down tonight.
Awesome. It's been really good having you on, Jeremy. I've enjoyed it, actually. It's nice to sort of look at Universal from a different perspective, because it's usually like we're just Disney, usually, to be fair. But it's nice to be objective for a bit. And it's been fun. It is going to be in next year's. We should have you back on next year, because it's going to be very interesting when Epic Universe opens to see.
Oh, yeah.
I would love it.
Yeah,
it's been nice to have somebody on that speaks the Disney language too, because my fellow co-hosts do not speak Disney.
Yeah,
I don't speak rat, so I'm not familiar. No.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing we've talked about tonight, I'm sure, that convinced Chris to like, I need to go to Disney again.
I do need to go to Disney again. I just need to find that motivation, but soon. Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, if you have any questions, let me know, and then I'll probably second guess myself first, but then I'll give you the right answer. I'll help direct you the best I can.
Okay, I appreciate
that.
Yeah,
of course.
Cool. Right, that's going to wrap up another episode of the show. Don't forget, we want you to let us know how bad Fast and Furious Supercharged is by submitting your fun facts about how terrible that attraction is before it goes away, because apparently that's happening soon. Send them in to us at podcast@uopodcast.com. But for now, we will see you all next week.
Are you insane? Get out of here. The curse, it's real. The podcast is over. So, the Magi want you to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, TikTok, and Pinterest. Just search UUO Podcast. For all the podcast news and articles, check out our blog at UUOpodcast.com. Contact us by emailing us at podcast@uuopodcast.com. And if you want to join the Producers Club, email us at uuopproducers@gmail.com. Silence! With your subscriptions, we shall rule for all eternity. Listen and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and everywhere else podcasts are found. Not even the Magi can save you now. There is no escape. Your end shall be my beginning. Prepare yourself for your next trip by emailing Michelle at portkeyvacations.com. She can take care of all aspects of your next Universal Orlando vacation. We hope you enjoyed your podcast. Please remain seated and keep your arms and legs inside the Prepare to Forfeit Your Souls. Check out the other podcasts on the UUOP network. Rush of Fear Halloween Horror Nights podcast, the theme park duo for all your West Coast news and info, and the Taste of Universal Orlando food podcast. So hey, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. I would have enjoyed this podcast a lot more if I had gotten my cup of coffee.